stunning new report offers insight into the Russian effort to upend the 2016 election and our government's flat-footed response to it. The Washington Post reports that prior to the election, top U.S. officials underestimated the threat posed by Kremlin trolls online, noting that intelligence and law enforcement agencies, quote, saw some warning signs of Russian meddling in Europe and later in the United States, but never fully grasped the breadth of the Kremlin's ambitions. The report adds that, quote, top U.S. policymakers didn't appreciate the dangers, then scrambled to draw up options to fight back. Now, quote, 1 year after those instructions were given, the Trump White House remains divided over whether to act. Meanwhile, two former intelligence officials, Michael Morell, President Obama's acting CIA director, and Mike Rogers, former Republican chair of the House Intelligence Committee, both warned that the Russian disinformation campaign rages on. In an op-ed in today's Washington Post, they write that Russia continues to aggressively employ the most significant aspects of its 2016 toolkit, the use of social media as a platform to disseminate propaganda designed to weaken our nation. For more, I'm joined by Ellen Nakashima, national security reporter for The Washington Post, and Natasha Bertrand, political reporter for Business Insider. Ellen, let me start with you. We hear this so many times, I feel, in stories like this. The warning signs were there. They were interpreted the wrong way. They were missed. Take us back, though. When did we get the first warning signs that this was happening, that this might happen? What did those warning signs look like, and how could they be missed?
Well, one of the first significant glimpses we got of what Russia might do to the United States was during the 2014 conflict in Ukraine, when the Russian military intelligence agency, the GRU, launched an all-out propaganda blitz in Ukraine in the lead-up to its annexation of Crimea. They created fake personas, put them up on Facebook and Russian social media websites to try to influence the opinion of Ukrainians there, to drum up support for the pro-Russian separatists against the pro-Western sympathizers who wanted to be closer to Europe. That was really sort of the first glimpse, and American officials, U.S. officials, saw that. Some of them were concerned, and they started a debate over whether or not to take some actions.
But we saw the story here then is that, the flag was sort of waved there by some people, but not much was done. Why not? Was it just sort of, it's too far-fetched? What was the thinking that led to the flat-footed response?
So what we've learned was there actually was an effort in 2014 and 2015 there was debate over whether or not to create a presidential finding against Russia, which would have been the first such finding to conduct covert action, influence operations, cyber actions and others against Russia. Something like that hadn't been done since the Cold War had ended. But during that period of time, the options that were being considered, which included doing fake personas, fake websites, perhaps even zapping websites and servers, some of that was considered either not to be to be effective or to result in retaliation. And some officials even thought that the U.S. spies shouldn't be involved in such counter-propaganda efforts. In the end, after 2 years of debate and drawing up of options, it went nowhere. The package never hit the president's desk, and so that whole effort was tabled.
And Natasha, to fast forward to the present day, you got Morell out there now saying, look, this is still going on. Russia's still basically using this playbook here. We got an election coming up here in 2018. It's a midterm election year. We got 2020 right on the heels of that. If Russia is up to what it was doing in 2016 this coming year or in 2020, will those efforts land differently now, or is it set up for a repeat?
Not necessarily. They won't land differently. That's what intelligence officials are really raising the alarm about right now, is the election system and the voter system hacking, the potential that they will be hacked, and the potential that Russia will not only continue its propaganda efforts on social media through this year, but actually intensify them leading up to the 2018 elections, as we saw last year. And what we're seeing now is that the Russians are still using these troll accounts that are operated outside of Russia to sow discord in the United States, to defend right-wing allies, primarily of Donald Trump. They're attacking any members of Congress that are critical of Donald Trump. They're defending media personalities like Sean Hannity. They are attacking the FBI. There's been a whole lot of controversy over the FBI over the last few weeks, and they have essentially aligned themselves with GOP members of Congress who are calling for a purge to take place within the FBI and saying that there's a kind of coup going on against the president. So these are all efforts by Russia really to disrupt. That's really what their goal is all about. They want to disrupt. They want to sow chaos in order to distract attention away from what's happening domestically in Russia and focus the world and the United States' attention on our own domestic problems.
All right, Natasha Bertrand and Ellen Nakashima, very interesting report there today. Thank you to both of you. Appreciate